I have sorted out another telephone to have a little look at. This time we've got one from France. One of their later ones, well, I say later ones, it almost looks very similar to our 746s. Mind you, the cover is much easier to take off than the 746. So it's quite interesting with that. Now, go through it. I know I'm showing you the back of it. This is what is written on the back. I think various ones had different things written, but this one, it says, if we can have a close look, there's what it says on there. I can repeat, because I've written it down. Made in 1975, and the model, have a look at my little crib sheet, is the S63, and this appeared to stand for the year that it was made or invented, and it was invented by Socotel, Socotel, S-O-C-O-T-E-L, and it's under the initials CTD Paris. It's model 63. Yeah, so 63 and the number obviously ties up. So that is the actual underside. Let's turn him back over. Excuse me getting it into a mess. I always do with this. I could do with an extra pair of hands. Oh, hold on. I'm making a right pig's ear of this. Let me move this out the way if it'll go out the way. I'm getting myself into a right mess. I suppose it'd be easier if I put the camera on a tripod, but I don't know. Anyway, I've sorted it out so you can now see the innards. Very, I would say, fairly basic. You've obviously got your ring or your bell. It's on a different type of idea to our ones, but nevertheless it obviously does the job. You can adjust the sound of the bell or the intensity by on the underneath. I'm not going to turn it over again. There's a little, like a clip, which I think you alter to change the position of the gong, so it depends which gong you do. You can see there's areas, you can turn these phones around or the bells around, and there is a flat area there which you turn it around and of course the bell would not be heard, or it would just be heard as a slight buzzing. So that's the way of adjusting the bells. You've got your normal induction coil, which once again looks very much like a normal transformer or a choke. Well made. That's the anti-side tone. Couple of capacitors. Got one there and one down there, which obviously is on the and there's another one here. Now what's interesting about this set, you can alter by, let me get my little pointer out, there's a little screw there and that can be loosened and you can move this round, and what it does, it connects or disconnects these resistors. So it'll obviously connect on a particular one to vary the resistance of the line. So this controls your sound. I believe the later ones had a thermistor, but this one obviously doesn't. And it is definitely dated 75. Now what is also interesting, and we do have on our 706s, nothing more annoying than trying to hold those adjustments down, and you've got a little adjuster there which you press that down and it allows you to clear the phone down, which I'm trying to do and not having much luck. But that's obviously, I say it did do it. It did do it. You press that down, press that, let go, and you've, all intents and purposes, put the receiver back for maintenance purposes. Releasing it, and that releases it. So the I say our 706s, I believe, had a similar device. Obviously a printed circuit board held in them. The bell seems to be connected through the terminations there, are obviously only used through the board, so these terminations are not wired up, but they will be wired up through the board. So that's your ringer. The early French phones didn't have a bell inside. You had to have an additional bell set, but this one, as I say, is made with the bell. And it's very, very similar, as I said, to a 706, perhaps in preference to a 746. It probably come out similar time, 60. When did I say this come out? This came out in 63, so similar time. These both came out. Now, let me have a look at the dial. As I said before, the French dial is based on the Automatic Electric Company's dial, and you've got this space between the finger stop and the 0. Also got the fact that oh, is it on there? Oh, it's on there, that's right. I thought I couldn't see where the numbers were, but the numbers are on the ring, on the phone housing itself. Phone housing, I think, is ABS plastic, I think they call this. In good nick. Well, it might be a slight bit of wear, but it's basically sound. You hold the in by those two little lugs there, and the two screws, which are brass mounted. Also, while we've got it out, let's have a look at the diagram. There's the diagram. I'll try and get it so you can see it better. There's the diagram. The bell is not shown as the normal symbol. I'm not too sure whether that's the bell there. It's only 160 ohms, but when you think of the ohmage on the line there, that could have something to do with it. I'm pretty sure that is for the sound and not for the sound of the bell, because your line 1 goes to that network and line 2 goes to that bottom line, so that all follows. I'll put the as I say, the way the ring goes on, it just clips on. And obviously these phones were made for touch tone type as well. You look at the space there, it's in the shape of a square, so that would be for touch tone. And additionally, you've got they call it's the mother-in-law's earphone, so if you're on a what you think to be a private conversation, the so-called mother-in-law could come along and say, oh, I'm going to have a listen to this, and they can pick this up, and you hear stuff. Now, with this one, unlike the English additional handset, or the watch receiver it was often called, our one, the English one, used to turn itself off. As it was hung up, it was actually hung rather than put into a little pouch. The French ones go into a pouch, and they don't turn them off. Well, it goes off when you've cleared the phone down, but with our ones there is an on-off switch built in. Now, onto the handset. Quite a heavy handset. Here you've got the transmitters, obviously a carbon transmitter, and as you can see on here, it's got property of the state, which a lot of the French phones did have on them. PTT, post telephones and telegraphs. You've got a number there, 278, and this one's made by Ericsson, which obviously made a load of the French phones as well. One number, there's a date there. What's the date? 27. I can't see a date on there. There probably is a date somewhere there. But this is a typical type of transmitter you often find on the European phones. Might be a slightly different shape, but they're basically the same idea. And it's quite weighty as well. They're obviously a well-made job. Looking at the receiver, and this is screwed in, so that is on terminals, plastic terminals, or plastic base, but the terminal are metal, of course. You've got your name there, typical French sounding name, Picard Libus, a name I'm not familiar with. They've got a date on there, looks like 75, on the type number or the batch number. Is that Picard Libus? So that is more or less it. The cable ends in spade terminals. Originally this would have had the French plug on, which is obviously not used over here, but having terminals like that, I can screw that into one of our block terminals, and you've got a good connection. Yeah, I think that's more or less it. The dial itself has got your emergency numbers on. It's got police, pompier, I think that's fire. Unfortunately, my French is not very good. I understand more German names than the French. I'm no way an expert on either of those languages, but it's surprising what you pick up. So that gives you the numbers to dial. In here, in this country, it's 999. But it looks in France, you just put 2 digits in, and for the police, 17. Pompiers, which is fire, I believe, that's 18. So that is more or less it. Anyway, let me quickly, I will put an answer in on my last effort I put in. I showed that Russian phone, and a gentleman's come up to tell me what's the chances of repairing the dial. Well, unfortunately, I was a bit of an idiot. I tried to fix it and I completely messed it up, but it was rusty. The dial itself was virtually rusty, so I made a bad job of that. But I do thank the gentleman for the information. It's always handy. So if I do get another phone, hopefully the dial will work. But if it doesn't, I might be in with a chance to repair it. So that was that dial on that It's Russian, well it's Russian, or where did I say it came from? Latvia. So it's quite an interesting place, a fairly old one as well. Anyhow, that is more or less it. Any questions, please ask. I will try this phone out, see if it works. I don't think I've ever tried this one out. But it's given me a chance to look and also test to see if they do in fact work. So we'll have a little look at this one. We might give that a little run to be on for a while. Another strange thing that is happening, which someone might know what it is. I don't, and I don't think Virgin does. I rang them up and I don't think they quite understood what I meant. But when I started with Virgin, the dialing tone was a straightforward tone, and it was on the whole time. As you dialed, obviously you'd cut the tone and it would go. But now it's intermittent. It's even. It comes on, goes off, on, off. Even period. So I don't know why it's doing that. I've tried clearing the actual equipment down, and that didn't do anything. So I don't know why. And also, I told them that I couldn't make out why it does this. When you dial 17070 and get a ring back, you always get a very good ring back, and it also gives the number of your telephone. It has never ever given me the correct number, what my phone should be. So there's a couple of interesting talking points there. They don't really affect the service, but I'm just curious. I suppose I'm a nosy so-and-so, and always trying to find out why it's doing this or why it's not doing that. Anyway, I'm going off at a tangent. So I'll thank you for watching. Don't know what I'm going to put up next. Depends what turns up in the cupboard upstairs. But I'm certainly going to try this one and see if it works. It might be handy with the additional earpiece, because I think I'm getting a little bit deaf, so it might pay to hold that up to my ear as well. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Thank you.